This is my favorite car ever designed. This is the 59 Elcamino. It looks like a spaceship, and actually they're pretty hard to get. This was the first year they ever came out with. So finding this thing was an absolute hot mess. Once I found it, I was in love, and that was it. I was full throttle into making this dream happen. Just too bad this dream started off with no floors and a bunch of rock. We have the mighty Ford Godzilla. Well, it was about time we put a Ford engine in a Chevy. But this thing's special. 440 cubic inches of pure mayhem. And we're gonna make it all-wheel drive. I can't believe I put this thing all the way out here. Here comes the flavor. I'm actually gonna make this thing all-wheel drive. I don't know why, but I've been dreaming about this for eons, to be honest with you. And I've always wanted an all-wheel drive car. I'm just gonna make my own. And that's what this channel is gonna come to. I'm gonna take this pristine, well, not really. This thing is an absolute trash bin. Oh my God, look at those rockers. Oh my God, look at that floor. The whole, let's just be honest, the whole thing is just a big pile of trash, but we're gonna make it nice. So the whole plan with this channel is we're gonna take this shell, smash that motor inside of it, full tube chassis, all-wheel drive. How we're gonna do the all-wheel drive, we'll get to that in the next episode. But in this episode right now, I need to worry about getting this car on something flat. I have to rip out all the rock, reconstruct the rockers, start laying tubes for the chassis, get the engine in. Well, I got to do a lot, and I can't do any of that until I build the chassis table. So right now, let's get right to it. Let's start building the frame and the chassis table for this thing to lie on. That way we can actually get to work, get this thing back to normal, or not normal. That's nothing about this thing is normal. Nothing about this channel is going to be normal, by the way. Alright, so I'm pulling up here a program called Shaper 3D. This is by far one of the coolest programs I ever got into. It's actually really user-friendly. You can do 2 and 3D designs, very quick, very simple, all using your stylus. So I carry this on my iPad for stuff like this. I just wanted to give you guys a general idea of how I'm going to build a table without drawing it. So the total length is actually going to be 18 feet. They gave me a 1.5 foot forward and aft of the car itself to actually start building on. Here, by the way, this is a 2x3 tube that's 1/8 inch thick. So length to have 18 feet, width came out to be 64 inches. Add that 2x3 tube in the outside of that, you get dead nuts in the middle of the rocker, which was 66 inches on the Elcamino. I'm gonna stagger my width tubes all the way up. I'm gonna use about 7 of them. Give me plenty. This is probably overkill for something like this. As you see in the program here, I'm just gonna mirror image the other tube. That's the 18-foot tube right there on the outside. And then from there, we're starting to have our box come together. This is really simple. I'm just going to use the 2x3 tube and run it 18 inches. I'm going to go a little overkill on the feet pedestals here and run them 18 feet and do 4 of them total all the way through. I'll get this here and I'll actually mirror image it to the other side, which you'll see here in a second. So now that we're mirrored up here and ready to go, this is really all the table is. It's just a big 18-foot long box. It's going to end up being 2 rails on each side that are directly in the middle of the rocker on the Elcamino. So boom, let's start welding and cutting. So here's the plan of attack for the actual legs. These are 18 inches tall. What I'm gonna do is I cut these at Metal Supermarkets. This is awesome, by the way. I just called these guys up and they cut it for me and it's perfect. I don't have my plasma table yet, so shout out to these guys, Metal Supermarkets in Warwick. This is gonna be welded to the bottom. These are all perfectly flat. And then from there, I will weld on my caster wheels. I got these at a local trucking shop. And this was awesome. This was only like 32 bucks per wheel. It's very affordable. And they hold over 900 pounds per wheel, so this is way overkill. I'm gonna be running 4 stands for each side, so this is gonna be plenty of plenty of structural rigidity to hold all that weight. I found these. I'm actually going to weld these on, and I'm going to cut this threaded rod to length, weld a nut on top, thread it down, and this is how I'm going to adjust the height in case the floor in this one section's off. If all the actual arms are perfect and this one is off somehow, it needs to come up, instead of the table bending down to contour toward the floor, I will hoist this up with this rod to make the table perfectly level and flat and everything's hitting before I put the car on, because my biggest concern was I build all this, there's a droop in the floor, this post is right here, the weight of the car will actually push that part of the table down. So I'll bypass that by putting these on each leg, adjusting it to the floor there with a pad, and then being able to adjust each leg perfectly tight so when the weight of the car comes onto it, it's still flat and nothing gives. So this isn't going to be a load bearing piece. It's just going to allow me to shim it. So from there, we're just going to start prepping, welding, get this all done, then we can start working on the table itself. We're doing it on a very uneven floor. I don't have anything massive to put this on. So I'm gonna take my time and actually shim it. I got myself some shims, got myself a level, I got a digital level, and I also have a machine flat surface to back here. So what I'm gonna do is tune this thing in perfectly. As you can see here, it's off. I'm gonna level this perfect so it's touching. And then the only thing I can control now is the squareness of this, which is going to be right here. As I move the beams in, I will square it up as well. So the squareness of it and the level of these is what I have to get perfect. Now, this material is actually bent like this. It flows. It's not bad. But my cross beams are going to tie that together like that shoelace I told you. This, the way they made this top piece should be perfect. Now, it could have got damage to it. But what I'm going to do is if I tie these frames together and they're perfectly in line with this, and they're flat, my feet or my pedestals are perfectly cut. So any imperfections in the height-wise will get squashed down. But other than that, only thing I'm gonna do is check for squareness, make the top level, do the same on all four corners, X pattern, which you'll see, to measure to make sure the box is actually square, tack, 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 and then I'm gonna put my 90-degree braces in that you guys saw before in here and tack those in, double check everything, and then go from there and start putting the legs on, just tack it. Then I'll flip it over and double check everything, and I'll finish weld it. Boy, oh boy, that was hectic. We just had some of the neighbors and they were awesome. They helped me actually forklift it on. I didn't get that much footage of it because, well, I was in the zone and it was a little dangerous. But don't judge. But she is on the table. She's a little riding dirty right now. They didn't have time to help me actually lift it. So I'm gonna have to cleverly use some sort of straps, jacks. I wanna get this thing centered and then get it on the rails. This actually would be a perfect time to do ride height because I can make blocks and wedge it in. But I don't want to do that because I want to get these on my rails and then see how far off the car is so I can start figuring out how I'm going to adjust this thing. But on a good note, yeah. It's the weirdest thing. This gets me so fired up. The shell straight, start working on the rockers like I originally talked about, and then get the motor in next after that. But we're getting too far down the line. But I'm just excited. It's been so many years in the making of wanting to do this, and being able to do it, I'm very grateful. So, yeah, this is cool. You can try all you want.